Why, hey there, guys! It's Clement from the Graphic Technologies, and this is the second video of my how to create a cool navbar tutorial. And this is probably going to be the last video. And if well, in the previous video we covered quite a lot of CSS, quite a lot of CSS, to be very honest. And if you do not really understand this or the purpose of this CSS styling, I really encourage you to watch the previous video. If you do not understand CSS at all, I encourage you to go to my channel. My channel, I really encourage you to visit it. It's really cool. The course isn't done yet, but it's almost done. But in this video, we're going to try and finish up on this responsive navbar and try to animate this toggler to do really cool stuff um, upon being clicked. Right now, when we click on it, nothing happens. But if we check the finished version, if we click on it, you see it rotates and turns into an X for canceling, and it goes back to the navbar. So it's really cool and really has this modern style. And yeah, so we're going to do that right now. And just to point out a bit of a mistake I made in the previous video, in the body tag, I gave it a box sizing of 0. Yeah, this is wrong. This is very bad. I'm really embarrassed of myself right now, but I hope you all will forgive me at the comment section. But this box sizing doesn't take the value 0. It takes the value either border box or contact box. Border box simply means that it should um, the total weight, the total width of the element, the body element should include both the padding and the margin as border box. But the other one, which is the older one for classical browsers, classical web developers used a lot those days, content box. It means that the width of the element you specify doesn't contain either the border basically. So most times, most browsers, most web developers like to use a border box, which is a better practice. So it's not 0. Cancel that from your mind. It's border box. So yeah, so that's just by the way. And now I am going to go into animating this whatchamacallit, the toggler. So the first thing to do is I'm going to be animating this by giving it classes. And first of all, I'm going to locate each div in the toggler div, each internal div in the toggler div. And how am I going to do that? I'm going to say toggler div colon nth hyphen child bracket 1. Now this indicates the first child of the toggler div, which indicates this first div, and I'm going to style it. But before I style it, I want to give it a tag. I want to give it a class, sorry, called, let me just call it top disappear. Because what if you study this very well, this already completed product very well, if I click on it, the top navbar, this top side here, it disappears. Then the middle one and the bottom one turn about 40 degrees, I think. I click on it, the top one disappears. So that's what we want to do. We want to make the top div, which is the nth child 1 div, disappear. How do we do that? Make it we give it, let's say let's just give it an opacity of 0. It's still going to be there, but just not going to be visible. And I'll give it a transition to make it go smoothly of 0.1 seconds. Yeah, this top disappear will be added dynamically by JavaScript so that it doesn't really affect our our project right now. So if I save it and reload the page, nothing happens, right? So I'm going to yeah, I'm gonna repeat this a bit. So Control V, copy it over here. So I'm gonna make this the second child, which is the second div, and the third child, and I'm gonna give this a class of mid rotate, right? I'm gonna call this end rotate. Yeah. So it's, as I said before, the classes are gonna be added dynamically. Yes. So I'm gonna give this also a transition of 1 second. I'm going to take off the opacity. I don't really need the opacity to be 0 in this case. So I'm going to give it a transform. I'm going to give it a transform, translate Y, and S is meant to be there. Translate Y, and now this 4 pixels I'm going to give it is going to move it downwards and rotate. I'm gonna rotate it by, let's say, 43 degrees. Hope it's fine. And yeah, that should be all for this. Then for the third internal div, the third child, it's gonna have a transform of translate Y, and I'm gonna move it down by -8 pixel. Move it up rather by -8 pixel. -8 goes up, negative pixels go up, positive pixels go down. That's for translate Y. So rotate, I'm gonna give it a, I'm gonna rotate in the opposite angle, -43 degrees, so that to make it sort of equal. So yeah, that's for my styling. And as I said again, just to reiterate, this classes I added to my div are going to be added dynamically. Understand? And be sure not to leave any space between this two, between the div end child 2 and the mid rotate or the top disappear or the end rotate, because leaving a space in between indicates that you're telling JavaScript to look for mid rotate inside the div. But no, we're not telling it that. We're telling JavaScript to find a div that has a class of mid rotate. So we do that by making sure that there's no space in between whatsoever. So that's just by the way. So just note that, be sure not to leave any space in between. So yeah, I'm gonna do one more thing. I'm going to add a I'm gonna add a slide down class to my UL for my drop down. The reason being, initially I want my UL for my drop down to have a margin top. Let me just specify that of let me take this out. Let me give this a margin of 0. Then I want my margin top, because I want to edit this specifically, my margin top to be, let's say, -100%. Okay, so we have this. So it should be -100% because we want to use JavaScript to bring it back down to a margin top of 70 pixels. So how do we do that? We create a slide down class, and I am going to put this class somewhere around here. So I'm going to say UL with an ID of for drop down, and with a class of slide down should have a margin top of 70 pixels. So be sure to specify it like this, because it may not work if you're not specific enough, because we have a UL that has an ID for drop down that also has a class of slide down. That way you're communicating better to JavaScript how to process the commands you're going to give it. So on that note, I think we're done with our CSS. So we're going to go into JavaScript. the really fun part. And to be very sure that everything is working as expected, I'm going to just do an alert this JavaScript document is being processed. So reload the page and we see this JavaScript document is being processed. So our JavaScript is working fine, everything is connected, and I am going to now get all my tags recognizing my JavaScript document. And to do that, I'm going to say const, which is an es6 way of declaring a constant variable, or basically a constant. And I call this constant toggler. I want to pick out my toggler from my DOM, and I'll say document dot query selector. I'm gonna have an es6 course down very soon, so you guys should just watch this space. Nav toggler query selector. Basically, I'm telling it to find the element within a nav that has an ID of toggler. That's what I'm telling it to do. So query selector does that. So I also want to get a drop down, const drop down, and document dot query selector, and I wanted to find the ID for drop down, which basically is just this in our indexation, for drop down ID. I'm telling it to find this UL called for drop down, and after it's found it, I wanted to find my individual toggler divs. So let me just rearrange this to make it make more meaning. My individual toggler divs are next. So I'll say const first toggler, okay. And in JavaScript, you usually use camel case. I'm going to be explaining all that in my JavaScript course, but for now, we're concerned about just creating this navbar. And I'm going to use query selector all because we didn't really give any identity to any of the divs within our toggler. So I'm going to do query selector all and get them by using JavaScript. And I want to search for a div in my nav, in my toggler. Exactly, it's a div in my toggler, in my nav. And if we console.log first toggler, well, let's call it console.log first toggler .log, which logs something to our console, prints it out in our console. If I reload, if I go to inspect and I reload the page, we have an error there. Uncut error. Oh, I misspelled document. I called it document. Oh my gosh, I do not know how to spell document. All right, it should work now. It's console.log. Console.log's list of divs. You can see there are 3 divs here, which represents the 3 divs in our toggler container. So it got them, but we want to get each of them. So the first toggler should go with the first div, and I want to get the first div, and this 0 represents the index of the array that we get, and JavaScript arrays are 0 based, so they start from the index start from the number 0 and goes upwards. It's pretty weird, but it's we've come to love it in JavaScript. So second toggler should have document.query selector all nav, then toggler div. I think the new ES6 JavaScript, you don't really need to add semicolons to the end of each line, but this is for us ancient JavaScript developers, we're kind of used to it, so don't judge me, please. So yeah, I want to add one here to get the second index. Oops, second index. So const third toggler equals to document dot query document again dot query selector of nav toggler, then our div, and this will be 2. So now I've gotten our 3 divs in the array. What I want us to do right now is to get a variable called is toggle, and we'll set this to false initially. And the reason it's false is we want to get a sort of state of our toggler, basically, to know whether it's been clicked or not. So its toggle is false initially, and now we want to add an event listener to our toggler. And to add an event listener, we want to add a click event listener, and this can be added by saying toggler dot add event listener. This doesn't work in really old browsers, but that's why we JavaScript developers thank God for Webpack, so we don't need to bother ourselves learning syntax of old browsers. So I want this to have a function of toggle handler, and I want this to bubble, so I'll leave this as false. So, and I'm going to specify my function here. So I'm going to call the function, I already called the function toggle handler, and it's going to be an es6 function. I'm trying to be as modern as possible. And this es6 function, once the toggler element is clicked, it's going to, the value of its toggle is going to change from what it was before to what it wasn't. So its toggle is assigned to is not toggle. That simply means that if its toggle was false before, make it true. If its toggle was true before, make it false. So it's as easy as that. And after doing that, if its toggle is true, then I want to say drop down dot class list dot add slide down. Not what this does is to add this slide down class that we specified in our CSS. So if we go down here, you can see this. We specified a slide down class for our drop down. So we're telling JavaScript that if the toggle, if it has been toggled, if toggle is true, add our slide down class, slide down our drop down. So let's save this and reload and see if that works. Okay, we're having a problem here. Let me check on it. Do we have an error? Okay, we don't have. Okay, we have an error. We have a couple errors. What's the error? Let me increase this. Debugging. This toggle is not defined. This toggle is not defined. This toggle is not defined. Oh, I misspelled is toggled. Oh darn. It's meant to be is toggled, not is toggle. It's toggled. Oh gosh, it's not really easy me talking and coding at the same time, but I'll get used to it. So if I reload the page, the error is gone. So let me clear this. If I click on it, you see my navbar is my drop down is it slides down in a really cool way. If I reload the page, click it again, but upon clicking it, nothing really happens. So I need to create an else statement that says else, that is if toggled is not clicked, or if toggled is clicked again and it closes up. I can say let's say drop down dot class list dot remove. Now what we're telling that if toggle is clicked again, it should remove the slide down class. So save this, we reload the page, we click on it, slides down, click back, slides up. So you can see we've already created a really cool navbar and it's working really fine. So if you're satisfied with this just being normal, well, you can end this video here, but nope, we want to do some really cool animation with our toggler icon here. So how do we do that? We already created the animation classes here for the togglers: top disappear, mid rotate, and end rotate. And I want to add these classes using JavaScript, so that is dynamically. So to do that, I'll say toggler, which is my toggler element, dot class list dot add. Okay. There's something I didn't add. Pardon me. Let me save this first of all. The toggler element, I didn't add a certain class. Let me go to the previous web page, the completed project. If I click on this, it rotates. I didn't make the entire toggler div rotates, and I did not specify the rotation of the entire toggler div. I only specified the rotation of each individual div inside the toggler div. So to do that, I'm just going to say, how am I going to do this? Hash toggler dot rotate on toggle, and I'm going to rotate. I'm going to do transform. I'm going to say rotate, and I'm going to rotate it by 90 degrees. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to say if is toggled, toggler dot class list dot add. I'm going to do rotate on toggle. Let me see if I spelled that right. Rotate on toggle. Okay, if I save this page, I go to my previous document, I reload the page. If I click on it, you see it rotates on toggle on cue. And I can remove the rotation on toggle by saying class list remove. So reload the page. If I click on it, it rotates. Click back, it rotates back to where it came from. So we're having a really cool display, but this is not all we're gonna do. Let's try and animate each individual div in the toggle. So we can do that by saying that's the first toggler, which is I already picked this out in line 3. Dot class list dot add. And what are we adding? We're adding the top disappear class, which I specified before. Over here, top disappear class. Next is the mid rotate class and the end rotate class. So I'll just do that really quickly. Second toggler dot class list dot add. Now this is the way I like to add styles to my JavaScript, because it reminds me pretty much of React. So that's beyond the scope of this course right now. So I'll just call this mid. Forgotten the name. Mid rotate. And for the last div, third toggler dot class list dot add, I'll call this end rotate. Right? Then I can just copy this, put it here, and say select multiple lines. You can do this in Sublime Text by holding Control and clicking on different parts of your page. So I'll just put remove, and I think we should be done. If I save this page and I reload the page, if I click on it, you see we have our really cool animated list. And with that, we're done. We have a really awesome navbar that's responsive, that has cool icon animation. You can see it's really amazing. You can do so much more with this. You can keep on adding classes that do different things. You can even make it blue upon clicking it. You can do whatever you want to do, really. It's the beauty of JavaScript, CSS, and HTML, the trinity of web design. So yeah, we're done. So we covered quite a lot in this video. We talked about JavaScript, using JavaScript to animate our toggle and our drop down. And well, that brings us to the end of this video. And if you liked this video, I encourage you to please leave a like or subscribe. And if you have there's always a better way to do stuff in JavaScript and any programming language. If you have a better way that I could have done this, you can tell me. Feel free to tell me anything on the group, on the comment section rather. It's highly encouraged to make the community to sort of interact more, and we can all learn from each other. So, but I think for now, for my usage, this is the best. Is the best for now. Feel free to tweak my code. I'm going to leave it in my GitHub repository. So yeah, this brings me to the end of the video, and yeah, so goodbye for now.